हरिः ओम श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः। हरिः ओम गणानां त्वा गणपतिगुं हवामहे कविं कवीनामुपमश्रवस्तमं ज्येष्ठराजं ब्रह्मणां ब्रह्मणस्पत आनुशृण्वन्नोतिभिः सीदसादनम्। ॐ महागणपतये नमः। शुक्लं वरदरं विष्णुं शशिवर्णं चतुर्भुजं प्रसन्नवदनं ध्यायेत् सर्वविघ्नोपशान्तये। व्यासं वसिष्ठदत्तारं शक्तेः पौत्रमकल्मषं पराशरात्मजं वन्दे शुकतातं तपोनिधिं। व्यासाय विष्णुरूपाय व्यासरूपाय विष्णवे नमो वै ब्रह्मनिधये वासिष्ठाय नमो नमः। अविकाराय शुद्धाय नित्याय परमात्मने सदैकरूपरूपाय विष्णवे सर्वजिष्णवे। ॐ नमो विष्णवे प्रभविष्णवे। मौनव्याख्या प्रकटितपरः ब्रह्मतत्त्वैवानं वर्षिष्ठान्तेव सदृशिगणैरावृतं ब्रह्मनिष्ठैः आचार्येन्द्रं करकलितचिन्मुद्रमानन्दरूपं स्वात्मा रामं मुदितवदनं दक्षिणामूर्तिमीडे वटपिटपि समीपे भूमिभागे निषन्नं सकलमुनिजनानां ज्ञानदातारमारात् त्रिभुवनगुरुमीशं दक्षिणामूर्तिदेवं जननमरणदुःखच्छेददक्षं नमामि। चित्रं वटतरोर्मूले वृद्धा शिष्या गुरुर्युवा गुरुस्तु मौनं व्याख्यानं शिष्यास्तु छिन्न संशय हृदये सर्वविद्यानां विषजे भवरोगिणां गुरवे सर्वलोकानां दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। ॐ नमः प्रणवार्थाय शुद्धज्ञानैकमूर्तये निर्मलाय प्रशान्ताय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। ईश्वरोर्गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। ॐ वासुदेवेन्द्रयोगीन्द्रं नत्वा ज्ञानगुरुं प्रदं गुरुं मुमुक्षूणां हितार्थाय तत्त्वबोधो विधीयते. Okay, so today we are really going to lead up to the session which culminates most of what we've been studying into the topic of Ātman. So, just one idea about the way Vedanta works. Vedanta is nothing other than, the knowledge of the self. The knowledge of the self, Tattvamasi, Aham Brahmasmi, whatever you may call it. But in order to have that knowledge revealed to you in full measure, you need to understand the individual and the universe and the individual's place in the universe. So there are a whole bunch of methodologies called prakriyas which uphold this entire body of knowledge. So, for instance, if somebody just reveals to you that, okay, you're Atma, nobody can argue with that. At the same time, it doesn't help you much. So first you need to understand that, okay, so far I've been relating to these three shariras. I've been relating to the world through these five personalities. I've been looking at these three states of existence and so on. You want to understand the nature of those things first, right? In order to successfully uphold the knowledge of the self. So until and unless there is some comfort or, some semblance of understanding of these worldly topics, these external topics, the self-knowledge does not really hold a lot of relevance. So that is how the entire body of knowledge builds up. So that's where we culminate in the next couple of talks, including today. So just a brief overview of how things connect. In the first Tattva Bodha class, apart from the intro to Vedanta portions, we looked at the sadhana chatushtaya. What are the fourfold qualifications that prepare you as a student to make a qualified seeker? And then in the next talk, we looked at the Sharira Traya, what are the three bodies? And then we looked at the Avasthaya Traya and the Kosha Panchakam. So now today's topic is discussing the nature of the self. And the next two topics will, look at the universe and then ultimately aim to connect you to whatever there is. So, it will reveal to you that the microcosmos and the macrocosmos are connected and how that we will see. So let me quickly share my slide. And yeah, today I thought, maybe we could also read a couple of verses relevant to the Atma portion. So one second. Put everything into perspective, the different talks that we've covered. The student begins. So most of the Upanishads are in the form of a dialogue, and Tattva Bodha too is in a form of dialogue. And so, after talking about the fourfold qualifications, the student is asking about Atma. And so the student says, Atma kaha, what is the Atma? And the Guru replies, Sthula Sukshma Karana Sharirad Vyatiriktaha Panchakosha Tita San Avastha Traya Sakshi Sachidananda Swarupa San Yas Tishtati Sa Atma. So he says that that which is distinct from the Sthula, the physical, the Sukshma, the subtle, the Karana, the causal bodies, that which is Panchakosha Tita San Avastha Traya, so again, it's distinct from the Panchakoshas. Avastha Traya Sakshi. It is the witness, the sakshi of the three avasthas, of the three states of experience or existence. Sachidananda Sas Yashtasati Atma. So this is the Atma. And so now the student has a lot of questions, as you can see, right? I mean, the Guru has really bombarded him with a whole bunch of terminologies. And so now the whole job of the student is to inquire into each of these words. And so then he is asking, what is the Sthula Sharira? Sthula Sharira Kim? And then the Guru will reply that you have this and this and this and so on. So each of these components is explained, right? And so that is where we went into the lectures where we talked about the Sharirataram, the Avasataram, and the Kosha Panchakam, because the student asked these questions. And in order to understand the Atma, first the Guru had to explain to him what these three things were. And now the student is satisfied with the answers the Guru has given. And supposedly the student is very smart. And so he gets it. The first go, he understands everything. And now he's finally asking the Guru again. So this takes us over here. Atma tarhi kaha. So ultimately, finally, what is the Atma then? Now I understood these other components. Now tell me about Atma. And so the Guru says, Satchidananda Swarupaha. So as Vedashree ji was talking about the Satchidananda. So we'll actually explore each of these words in detail, or in as much detail as we can, but we'll continue reiterating it over the next few talks. So Satchidananda Swarupaha. Satchidananda is broken down. It's a sandhi, but it's broken down into Sat, Chit, and Ananda. Swarupa means your essential nature, yourself, your fundamental reality, your reality. So what is the Atma? It is of the nature of Satchitananda. And so now again, if you follow a trend in Tattva Bodha, the Guru gives you a terminology, and then the student will inquire into each of those words. So it's kind of a method of inquiry where the Guru gives an answer. The answer will have several components in there, and the student will again take each of these components and turn that into a question. And the Guru will give an answer, and then he'll move on to the next component. So it's a very beautiful progression where you kind of like proceed forward in a linear form, linear pattern. So the student inquires, what is Sat? Sat Kim? And the Guru says, Kala Trayepi Tishtati Sat. That means that which is distinct from the three tenses of time, past, present, and the future, that which is beyond it, that which is not confined by the three tenses of time. So, if we look at the world around us, everything is confined, right? Everything is bound by time. There's nothing that is beyond time. The universe itself comes in time and it goes in time. And in fact, time itself is bound by certain laws, and time also has a beginning in Pralayam, or rather in Shrishti, and it has an end in Pralayam. Because, we'll talk about Shrishti and Pralayam a little later. But so that which is beyond the three times is Sat. Now he's inquiring Chit Kim. Chit is consciousness. So what is Chit? Jnana Swarupaha, of the essence of knowledge. So here this knowledge is not meant to be taken as a typical knowledge of a particular subject, right? So we'll see what this jnana is referring to. And Ananda Kaha. What is Ananda? And I prefer not to really translate this to anything. Like even Pujya Swamiji is very clear about it, that translating Ananda to bliss and so on are very misleading. And we will discuss that as well. So Sukha Swarupaha, of the essence of Sukha. The essence of Sukha is Ananda. Sukha is not Ananda, but it's of the essence of it. Evam Satchitananda Swarupam Swatmanam Vijaniyat. So, this is basically the Satchitananda Atma which we are studying and we are talking about. Are there any questions on this so far? I'm definitely going back into more details, but if anyone has any comments or questions to...
Yes, Prashant bhai, I have a doubt.
Yeah.
First, we're asking about Atma. The Guru is negating, right? It is not Sukshma Sharira, it is not this Sharira, it is not Panchakosha. So,
Yes.
is it related to Neti philosophy?
Absolutely. And that's a very good question, and thank you for reminding me to talk about it. One of the ways to establish who you are is to first negate what you aren't, right? As you correctly pointed out. So, does anybody know the story of the empty bowl? once a student goes to a guru and he approaches him, and he's there to apparently learn, but he continues to talk about himself, right? So the guru, what he does is he starts pouring tea into a cup, and he keeps pouring, 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 and it's overflowing. And the student thinks that the guru has gone mad. He's like, "What's wrong with you? Like, are you aware of what you're doing?" And the guru says, "Exactly. I'm just doing what you're doing. You come with a full cup, right? I cannot a full bowl. I cannot fill it anymore. So you already have all this thing brimming at the top, and now I cannot really establish any concrete knowledge for you until you empty it first, right?" And so we have all these notions that we've gathered for countless lifetimes about ourselves, right? That I am this sharira, I am that sharira, I am big, I'm small, I'm pretty, I'm ugly, I'm insecure, I'm secure. All these notions that we have built around us. On top of that, if you try to build the notion of Atma, what's going to happen? Nothing, right? The Atma, it'll collapse. Because imagine that you have a dilapidated structure, a very broken down building, and on top of that, if you try to pile something up, what will happen? Everything will fall. So it's not going to work out. A person who already has a lot of preconceived notions about who they are, they cannot really understand who they are until they start eradicating some of these false notions. And so the framework of the Upanishads is very beautiful in that it first negates who you aren't, what you aren't, right? So you're not the Shariras, you are beyond the three states of experience, you are not the Panchakoshas, and then finally it tells you who you are. So, thank you for bringing that up. It's a very relevant uh, part of our Upanishadic methodology. So, any other comments on this? Okay, sorry. Someone just unmuted any. You can comment if you like. Don't be afraid. Okay. So now we are going to look at the topics of order of reality. Would anyone like to take a shot? Because I'm sure like some of you have studied Vedanta, so maybe you can talk about it. Hello. Okay.
Like, what do you want to discuss about?
Sorry, your voice went off.
Yeah. What do you want to? What is your question?
I'm saying, would anyone like to give a brief description of orders of reality based on what they've learned, if they've learned?
Okay, I have no clue.
Absolute order and relative order of reality. I'm not sure, but that's what I think.
Yeah, correct. So, okay, let's actually look at this little chart over here. And usually, a person would draw a little box around Satyam, and then they would show that leading down to Mithya, and then they would show Mithya dividing into these two, right? That would be wrong. I actually thought about it and realized that no schematic representation does this justice. And when I ask you to look at this chart, like I said, everything in Vedanta is a model. The model is only to help you connect different topics together, but don't take it as an absolute. Just take it as a placeholder. Look at the chart, let it help you understand a particular concept, but then after that, demolish the chart in your mind. The topic should be consistent without the chart. So this is a very important point, especially when I'm talking about this particular chart here. The thing is, Satyam is Brahman. You're right. When we talked about Satchitananda, Atma, here the Satyam is the Atma. It is not that Satyam, there's an arrow coming out from Satyam and then that becomes Mithya, and then from Mithya you have other things, right? The Satyam does not go away. It is not transformed. It is not transfigured. It is not like kind of taking a different component and now appearing as Mithya. Satyam is always present. And that's why I drew a big box around Satyam, because whatever is there, and this box is also small, right? The box itself is Satyam. So whatever there is, whatever you can objectify, whatever you cannot objectify, whatever is known, whatever is unknown, whatever you are, whatever you aren't, whatever there is, existence is Satyam. Okay? So this is a very important thing to think about. So when we have the Mithya Jagat, when the universe is manifested, Satyam was present before there, and this is what the Chandogya Upanishad says, right? That I don't recall the verse, but it says something of along the lines that what was there before Asat was the Sat, The Sat always was there. Asat is the Jagat, the Mithya Jagat. So now we have the Mithya Jagat.
सत से पहले कुछ नहीं था, सत something of that sort.
Yeah, so Asat ke pehle Sat tha. So, and Sat was always there. Satyam is always there. Satyam is the absolute reality. It is existence. So when we talk about Sat, we are talking about existence. But I just want to give this little caveat when I say, when you look at the chart, don't take it too seriously. Just take it as a conceptual placeholder and then discard it in your own mind. So going.
Are you telling that Brahma Satyam, Jagan Mithyam? Are you trying to bring in that concept now?
Yeah, so exactly. Brahma Satyam, Jagan Mithya, right? This is, I believe, don't quote me on this, but I believe it was part of the Viveka Chudamani. At least that's what it's been attributed to, though I've heard a lot of people say otherwise. So
Is it from Viveka Chudamani?
that I've heard, like I said, don't quote me on that, but I've heard people attribute
So,
Chudamani. It might be from elsewhere, but definitely that's a verse that we attribute to Adi Shankaracharya. That Brahma Satyam Jagat Mithya, and that is one of the basic tenets of Advaita philosophy. So yeah, you are absolutely correct. So before we even go into this chart, let's take a step back and let's talk about each of these words in detail. Sat, Chit, and Ananda. Right? So Sat is existence. What is Sat? What is there anything that Sat isn't? Not really, because we can say that I exist as a person. I can say that the car exists, the object exists, the tree exists. But what lends it existence? That is existence. Existence lends an object its value to exist, its ability to exist. So whatever exists is present in a particular name and a form, right? So if I look at an object, let me get off the chart and come back on the screen so I can maybe show you objects and be more interactive. Okay. So if I look at an object, like let's take this calculator for instance. This calculator has certain features. It has a set of permutations and combinations in which molecules are arranged together to give rise to this particular calculator, which allows me to do cool stuff. I can calculate numbers, and that is also an attribute of the calculator. Similarly, you have something like paper, which has different attributes. It has a different melting point. It has a different inflammable point. So there's a temperature in which it goes up in flames. Something else may be differing. So whatever object we see around the world is again only defined in the terms of name and form. So we have a thing in Vedanta called Nama Rupa. Nama means name, Rupa means form. Everything in this Jagat has a name and form. And names and forms continue to change, right? So what was there before this calculator was some different components in a factory, and then those components were also produced, and before that they were something else. They may be molecules, and then you have atoms, and then you have quarks, and I keep giving this example again and again. But the point is that whatever exists, it undergoes transformation. It does not remain constant. It comes in time, it goes in time, and it also changes itself in time. So, an example Pujya Swamiji gives is the shirt and the cloth example, right? So, can you say that, okay, chalo, I'm wearing this vest. Is that Satyam? It's a vest. Everybody can agree to that. Nobody disagrees. Nobody will say that, no, that's an elephant, right? It is what it is. It has a name, it has a form, it may even have a brand. So, now Swamiji says, no, that is not the vest, it is yarn, right? It is cotton yarn. And then you say that no, it is not yarn, it is actually these different threads, these fibers. And then you say no, it's not cotton fibers, it's actually molecules. And then you'll say no, it's not actually molecules, it is atoms. And then you'll say no, it's not atoms, it's actually a bunch of electrons and the nucleus put together. And then you'll say no, it's not nucleus also, it's protons and it's neutrons. And then you'll negate that again, and then you'll say no, it's actually quarks. And then if science progresses further, we'll negate that infinitely more, right? We'll continue to negate what you look at, and then you'll reduce it into some other component. And so ultimately, logic tells us that if something is there must be a fundamental thing that holds it in place, that holds it, that lends it existence. But not any one particular name and form can be treated as an absolute, right? Because one form can be reduced into another. The vest turned into the yarn turned into the cloth turned into the cotton fiber and the molecule and so on. So similarly, any object that you look at into the world cannot be treated as an absolute. It cannot be treated as unchanging. And yet, the fact that the object exists tells us that though the components can be infinitely reduced into its subcomponents, ultimately there must be something that lends it existence because it is there, and that there-ness, that isness, the property of isness is existence. And everything else is an incidental property of this isness. So what is has existence, and that existence is Sat. So is Sat clear, or anything we elaborate upon?
So Sat means that uh, which has overcome time factor. We can say that which is present in all three dimensions of time.
Yes. So he says Kalatraya pi tishtati Sat. So that which is beyond the three tenses of time, that which is not confined by time. In fact, as we will see, even time and space have their existence due to Sat. So time is mithya, space is also mithya, but Sat is Satyam. That's why you call it Sat. And so space and time itself
That
are
which never ends.
yeah, they emanate from this Sat. That is what Sat is. So now here's the cool part, right? So Sat doesn't become mithya. There's no becoming over here. There's only an appearance of mithya, right? So when I look at the West and I say that this is actually yarn, the West doesn't disappear, right? When I say there is no West, there's only cotton, there's only molecules. The West will not disappear. The nama and form will remain, but the way I look at it completely changes. And it can also disappear, it can disintegrate, no doubt about that. Mithya keeps changing. But the point is that Sat is the base which is always there even when Mithya is there, right? So when I say one should not say that Sat has become Mithya, but Sat always remains even when there is Mithya.
Like clay and pot example.
Clay and pot, that's another example that Pujya Swamiji uses, or gold and jewelry, right? So gold and ornaments. So good that you are reminding me of topics. So clay and pot, you have different types of things that you can make out of clay, right? Earthenware, you can make saucers and pans and whatnot. But what is underlying behind all of them is the clay. So before the form of the pot was created, there was clay, right? Similarly, as the Chandogya, this is actually a Mruga example in the Chandogya Upanishad, the pot and the clay. So uh, before you create the form of the pot, there is the substance of the clay. After you create the form of the pot, does the clay go away? No. But now you don't look at it because somehow when the clay has the pot has a functional ability, it allows you to carry water or carry whatever else you want to carry in it. You don't think about it as clay any longer. But the jnani, the wise man will know that yes, ultimately this is clay only. This is, yeah, okay, it has a functional use as a pot, but it is clay. Similarly, the jnani will know, or at least the person who understands Vedanta, if he's not a jnani also, he will know that the world has a function, but the Sat is always there. So the secret over here, and this is something that one should write down because this is what one of my teachers told me, is you see the Sat in the Mithya, but you never take the Mithya to be the Sat. I'll repeat that again. You learn to see the Sat behind the Mithya, but you never treat the Mithya as Sat. That is a mistake that we routinely make, right? We treat the Mithya objects as reality. We treat the world as absolutely real. And then we forget that there is some reality behind it, which is Sat, which upholds it, which lends it existence. But now if you are a jiva, you obviously have relationships and roles. You have to play your role in this world. And so you look at the world, you interact with people, and you know that this is all mithya. And you look at the sat behind the mithya, just as you look at the clay behind the pot. Or you have different ornaments, right? You have a ring which has a particular function. You cannot wear the ring around your neck. You would probably die if you do that. Well, some people in Thailand, I think there's a subculture which elongate their neck by putting really tight rings around them. Have you seen that? So, they have a very long neck. It's like twice as long as a normal human being's neck. And the way they do it is by they wear multiple rings, and then every year they add one more ring so that their neck becomes long. And in their culture, it's considered very attractive. So the woman with the longest neck actually gets the best chance to mate with somebody. So anyway, I'm going very far from Vedanta, but so yeah, so the ring has a function, the bracelet has a function, the chain has a function. All of these things have their own names and forms, but ultimately, when you melt it, it's all gold. So there's a joke that Swamiji makes. He says that the best Vedantin would be a jeweler, because when you buy ornaments, you pay a lot of money for karigari, right? Karigari means to create the patterns, to do the intricate artwork in the designs. So karigari has labor cost involved with it, and usually, at least in India, almost 30% of the cost of the jewelry is karigari, and about 70% of it is actually the gold. So when people say you should invest in gold as a good alternative, to be honest, yeah, provided you're buying gold bars. But if you are actually just buying jewelry as an investment, you are already throwing 30% of it without. So when you go to the jeweler and you want to sell your ornaments, if you want to generate some money and you want to sell your ornaments, the jeweler you'll tell him, I bought it for so much, and the jeweler will say, I can only give you this much money, and then you'll ask him why, and he's like, there's only gold, right? I'll give you the value of the gold. So Swamiji says that the jeweler is like a gyani. He knows that there's sat behind the mithya. He sees the substance behind the forms. So similarly, that's a joke. The jeweler is not a jnani. He might be, we don't know, but anyway. So same way, when we interact with the world and when we look at the world, we have to understand that it's only a name and a form. Its existence lies in Sat, and Sat is what gives it existence. Without Sat, there is nothing. In fact, even nothing as an object, if we look at ignorance as, in deep sleep, we say, I know nothing, even nothing can be objectified. In fact, there is nothing that can be even spoken about without Sat. Sat is, but when Asat is also not, Sat exists. And when Asat is, then also Sat is there. When there is a universe, there is still Sat. When there is no universe, then also there is Sat. When there is pot, there is clay. When there is no pot, also there is clay. When there is ornament, there is gold. When the ornaments are melted, then also there is gold. So this is the way you understand Satyam and Mithya. Satyam does not go away when Mithya comes. Rather, Satyam appears as the Mithya. And that is the whole secret. The Mithya is an appearance. It is not a reality. Whereas Sat is the reality. So, is Sat
It's
clear?
an
Sorry?
illusion, right?
Sorry?
It's more like an illusion. Mithya is like an illusion.
I won't even call it an illusion, and we'll actually see why. Because Mithya has a functional ability. It has some functional advantages that you can use to make your life easier, right? If I sit on a chair, I cannot say that it's an illusion, otherwise I would like fall through it. But
Right.
the thing is that my body and the chair share the same orders of reality, and we'll see the orders of reality slide once again. So that's why if you look at the science over here, the electromagnetic forces, the electric forces of the atoms on my backside are actually pushing against the chair, and it is the electrons that are pushing against each other, which allows me to sit on the chair. If there were no electrostatic force or electromagnetic force, I would simply fall through. I would just fall through down to the core of the planet and keep bouncing back and forth because of gravity. So yeah, so it's very interesting because from a scientific perspective, anytime I hold something, I'm not actually holding the object. What's happening is that the electrons in my fingers are repelling the electrons in this, because the electrons are on the outer orbit, whereas the nucleus, the proton which is exerting a positive charge, is within the nucleus. So here the negative charge of the electrons of this are pushing against the negative charge of the electrons in my hand, and that's why my hand does not go through it. It's solid. But in reality, if you look at how deceiving the world is, how deceptful the world is that even a word? I don't know. But anyway, when you hit a cement wall, when you hit a concrete wall, it hurts, right? But in reality, 99.99999% of it is empty space. If you look at an atom, it is so far apart that the comparison given. I hear a lot of background noise. Let me mute it again. Uh, Yeah, so if you look at the example over here, you take a huge football stadium, right, or a cricket field, international one, not those local ones, and you place a mosquito in the center of that field. The mosquito will be like the nucleus of the atom, and the entire outer rim of the stadium will be like where your electrons orbit. Now imagine the number of mosquitoes that will fit there. Imagine the number of the amount of empty space that is there in each atom. And even the more interesting part, the scariest part that I've actually heard is the emptiness within the nucleus itself. The nucleus is like the mosquito, but if you zoom into that mosquito and you compare that and you look at it, the quarks that are comprising the subatomic particles, they're as spaced apart as a small tennis ball compared to the rest of the solar system. So you have like three quarks, maybe like three tennis balls, and they're moving through the solar system. And when they move so fast, they're moving like close to the speed of light. And that gives you the impression of the proton. So the proton is nothing but a fast whizzing of these three quarks: up quark, down quark, strange quark, charmed quark, top quark, and bottom quark. These are the six quarks you have. So that's very interesting science. Quantum mechanics talks about this thing. The other thing, if you look at the world, it's not an illusion, but it's an appearance. And the reason I refuse to use the word illusion is simply because illusion is something which does not exist in a real sense. It kind of like deceives the senses to believe it is there, right? But when you look at appearance, it appears, but it does not deceive in that sense, because matter, when you look at matter and when you carry this, it has a particular quantity in terms of its weight, right? It might be, I don't know, 15 grams, 20 grams. The matter, the weight that something has is nothing but motion. And this is the scary part. This relativity talks about it, that anything that has mass, is the mass is lent through energy. If we look at the Einsteinian equation, I don't want to go too far over here, but if you look at the Einstein's equations of E equals mc square, energy is equated to mass. Mass can be transferred into energy, but they've also transferred energy to become mass, right? You will never think that energy has weight. Similarly, you'll never think that motion has weight. Motion is energy. The faster the thing moves, the more it weighs. So all I'm trying to illustrate is that the world appears to be less crazy than it is to us, because our five senses have evolved to transact with the world, not to completely understand it. We are not meant to understand every single detail of everything that is really out there. And the more we understand, the more we can use to our technical advantage, right? We can make our life more comfortable by creating computers or whatnot. Sometimes it can become a burden, sure, but for the most part, it's meant to make our life comfortable, the use of technology. So this is the important thing, that now we'll actually address Unnati's comment about illusion versus appearance. So let's look at the chart. Oh, you're looking at me. Oops. Wait, let me turn the chart on. Okay. So I think we touched upon Satyam in great detail over here. That Satyam is the existence principle, and everything else, Mithya, is an appearance that's built upon Satyam. It's kind of like a snake and a rope example, right? We'll come to that again later. So Satyam is Satyam, it is Sat, it is existence. Mithya is the world which exists, which appears. It's an appearance upon Satyam. It's a superimposition, just like the snake is superimposed upon the rope. So let me give this example to you. I'll just do it now because then I tend to forget. If you are walking out in broad daylight and you look at a rope, it appears to you as a rope. A rope cannot be mistaken for a snake if you are walking out in the bright midday sun. But now let's say you're going out at twilight, around dusk, and you see that there's something like a rope. You can discern the object, but you cannot discern the details of the object, right? And because you don't know the details, your fears are projected upon the rope, and now it appears to you as a snake. For a person who is scared by the snake, can you say that snake was not real? No, it certainly had some reality, right? Some reality was there. And this reality was, it was an imposed reality upon the substratum, which is a rope. Similarly, this whole Jagat is an imposed reality upon the substratum, which is a Satyam. The rope manages to scare the person because it appears as a snake. Similarly, the Sat manages to make a person miserable because he treats it as unreal, and he treats the appearance of Mithya as real. So in reality, if you look at the world as Sat, again I repeat that, look at the Sat behind the Mithya, but never take the Mithya to be the Sat. When you take the unreal to be real, then you'll have a problem. But if you're able to interact with the unreal, knowing that there is a reality behind it, which is real, and this is only what do you call it? Transactional reality, a relative reality, then you'll be safe. You'll be very well sheltered, and you'll be able to function through your day-to-day duties in a very successful way. So
So,
Yeah,
This is what is famously called as Rajyasarpanyaya, right?
absolutely. This is the
Yeah.
Rajyasarpanyaya, the snake and the
And
rope
it's,
logic.
yeah, the thing is, you tend to imagine the rope to be a snake, and the fear which comes out of it is also real,
Yes.
but the rope is not snake. That is also real. That is what it says, right?
Yes, that is what it says. The rope is the snake is an appearance, the rope is a reality. Same way, Mithya Jagat is an appearance, the Sat is a reality.
Yeah.
As you said, Brahma Satyam Jagat Mithya. So now Mithya reality itself. Now, okay, so let's look at Tucham. I want to get rid of Tucham because it is of no interest to us. Tucham is simply something that's absolutely unreal. It is not something that exists at all. It is not even an appearance. It is a falsity. It is something which is incorrect and which is not there. So an example Swamiji uses is a flower in the sky, right? You can't have a flower floating without substratum in the soil or on a tree or whatever. But a flower in the sky, that is not a reality. It's tucham. The horns of a hare, hare as a rabbit, not like hair, but the horns of a rabbit. So the rabbit does not have horns, right? And so if you superimpose this object called horns upon a rabbit, it's not real. Such an object does not exist. Or a unicorn. If you've seen a unicorn, like the horn of a horse, like that. So these things don't exist. Or another example he uses is the son of a barren woman. If the woman is barren, how can she have a son, right? So these are things which do not exist, and they are called tucham. They are not even uh, they are not even relative, they are not even transactional, they are not even mithya, they are like just unreal, not there. So tucham we get out of the way because it's not related to us. But it was important to know that, not tucham is not mithya, tucham is simply unreal. Okay. Now we look at mithya. Mithya continues to change with time, right? Mithya is a jagat around us, a world that we live in, including our physical body, including our mind, including the Karana Sharira and so on. Mithya is divided into two categories. You have Vyavaharikam and you have Pratibhashikam. Does anyone want to elaborate upon this if you studied it?
Vyavaharika means transactional, but I'm not sure how to elaborate.
Yeah. So you want to describe it?
No, sorry, I can't.
Okay, no problem. So Vyavaharikam is objective reality, transactional reality, relative reality, whatever you want to call it. You can use all of these terms for it. You're able to transact with something in the world, but when you talk about a transaction, it also implies that other people are able to transact with it, right? So if I'm writing with a excuse me, if I'm writing with a pen, somebody can borrow my pen and write with it. So the pen is vyavaharikam, it's transactional. Different people are able to agree to it, right? So suppose you perform a scientific experiment. A lot of people, you can only pass the experiment as true if it has repeatability value, and if it is uh, if the results are agreed upon by many parties. Similarly, if I look at a tree and if there's a group of people and we all look at the tree, we can say, yes, there's a tree over here. If I look at the sky and I say it's blue, everybody will agree to it, right? So objective reality is that which all the jivas can agree to. It is objective, it is real for them as far as their transactions are concerned. Pratibhashikam is different. Let's say I have a dream. Can I say the dream is not real? Of course it's real, but it's only real for me. So if I say that I dreamt of a particular thing and I visited Niagara Falls in my dream last night, nobody says that you have to prove it, right? I don't have to prove my dream to anybody. It is my subjective reality. It is something that I imagined. It is something that I saw. And other people have enough common sense to know that you cannot ask a person to prove his dream. You take it for granted that this is his subjective reality. You don't say that the dream was false, it did not occur. You definitely had experiences within that dream. You definitely experienced the passage of time in that dream. You definitely, performed some actions in that dream. So the dream for you as an individual is it's a reality, but it is not a reality for other people. Same way, every jiva will have their own pratibhashikam reality. So the thing is that, when we talk about Maya Shakti, Ishvara, with the help of Maya Shakti, manifests as his Jagat. But each jiva, each manifestation also within this Jagat has a little bit of that Maya Shakti, a little small portion of it. And so I am able to project my own world. I'm able to project my own reality, my own dream universe that is on account of the Maya Shakti that I possess. So the Vyavaharikam is the objective mithya reality which every jiva can agree to, every jiva can transact with. Whereas Pratibhashikam is the subjective, personal reality that only that individual jiva has access to, and only that individual jiva can experience. So this is the distinction between mithya Vyavaharikam and mithya Pratibhashikam. Pratibhashikam has its base in Vyavaharikam, right? If you look at Pratibhashikam, it is dependent upon the Vyavaharika reality. The dream is dependent upon the person who is dreaming. If the person dies, where does the dream go? The dream is gone. This is clear, right? The subjective reality, which is Pratibhashikam, is dependent upon the objective reality, which is Vyavaharikam. Both of these are mithya. Whereas mithya, which is again the relative order of reality, the transactional order that you call, is dependent upon satyam. You take away Pratibhashikam, it's okay, Vyavaharikam will still remain, correct? You take away a person who's dreaming, the person will still be there. You take away the dream of the person will still be there. But if you take away the person, the dream is also gone, right? So Vyavaharikam can exist without Pratibhashikam. Pratibhashikam cannot exist without Vyavaharikam. Therefore, Pratibhashikam depends upon Vyavaharikam. Similarly, mithya, both of these are mithya. Mithya, Satyam can exist without mithya, but mithya cannot exist without Satyam. Is this clear so far, the relationship over here? Okay, okay, cool. So, I think we touched upon the Sat aspect of Atma a lot, and we already like 1 hour through. Let's look at Chit and Ananda, right? So, Chit is consciousness. Now, what is this consciousness that we are talking about? When we looked at the Sharira Traya, the 3 bodies, I take myself to be the physical body, I take myself to be the mind, I take myself to be expressing through these pancha koshas and so on, right? These are inert. The physical body is inert. Why is it inert? Sorry?
Because we can experience things around.
Yes. So you're able to experience the physical body also, just as you're able to experience the
Yeah.
world. So when we look at the
Right.
Sharira, the Sharira is again made of food. The food I eat, if that is not me, then how can the Sharira be me? The food is inert. How can the Sharira be sentient? And yet our experience fools us. Our experience shows that I'm able to talk, I'm able to use my body, I'm able to wave my hand. I can do all of these things. And it appears to be real, it appears to be sentient, right? The Sharira appears to be sentient. So this is the problem that even most atheists or non-believers or whatever, they might also think that the Sharira is obviously sentient. If I cut myself somewhere, I'll feel the hurt, I'll feel the sentiency. But here, the objective understanding is that the Sharira is lent sentiency by the consciousness aspect of the Atma. So, Swamiji gives the example, or maybe he does, yeah, he gives that you have electricity and you have the light bulbs, right? The light bulbs are inert. The light bulbs by themselves are lifeless. But all the circuitry and all the electric connections that are around your room that are inbuilt, the electricity runs through them. And it is the electricity which lends life to the light bulb. The light bulb has no light by itself without electricity. But electricity requires a light bulb to manifest through. Now, don't treat electricity as consciousness. It's only an example, an udarana. Discard the parts which are not relevant. So, similarly, consciousness enlivens the sukshma sharira, which is the manaha, buddhi, hankara, chittani, right? Those functions, the antakarana. And the antakarana, when present within the physical body, within the sthula sharira, enlivens it. So it is actually the borrowed consciousness of the Atma alone which enlivens the physical body and the mental body. Is this clear so far? I'm going to definitely go into more details, but this part is clear? Okay, I'll assume it's clear. So now when we say Chit is Jnana Swarupaha, let me again get out of this presentation. I'll use an example. Usually Swamiji has something like a flower or something more interesting than a calculator, but I'm a nerd, so I probably have this example over here. So when I look at this calculator, we already talked about existence, right? That it is a projected reality, it's mithya, and what is the base around it, behind it is sat. Now we look at the consciousness aspect. I am conscious of a calculator. I'm conscious of the calculator object. There's an object called a calculator with certain features. Now I take away the calculator. What remains? Consciousness minus any object, right? So right now when I look at the calculator, there's a triputi. Triputi means something that's divided into three. There's a knower, which is the self. There's a known, which is the object. And there is knowledge, which takes place between them. And then you can say there's a fourth thing, which is a means of knowledge, which are my eyes. So these four things put together allows me to inference that there is a calculator and it has certain features. So again, let me reiterate that. You have the knower, you have the means of knowledge, which are the eyes, you have the object of knowledge, which is the calculator, and then you have the knowledge which connects the knower and the known object. So these four components put together allow us to objectify the world around us. But this consciousness is there in the presence of which something is known. This is very important. Consciousness ultimately, when we say it is the witness, even witnessing is an action, right? You don't look at witnessing as a thing that's independent of action. So consciousness in reality is not a witness, but it is the witnessing principle. Very, very important. Same way, consciousness is not an action. Consciousness is free of action. Consciousness is not, when you say you're conscious of a calculator, there is knowledge of the calculator. The knowledge is consciousness. I know this is probably a more detailed topic and I should not relate knowledge to consciousness, but let's just touch upon this and then I'll get back into the more basic ideas. I have knowledge of a calculator. Calculator is not. But what remains when the calculator fades away is that knowledge minus the objects, right? So the knowledge, which is very abstract, it is free of attributes. The attributes of the objects appear upon the knowledge. It is superimposed upon the knowledge, and it appears that I have knowledge of this calculator. But in reality, there is only knowledge of the calculator, name and form are imposed upon it. Same way, this consciousness principle is that in the presence of which things are known, in the presence of which things are enlivened. So your body, mind, sense complex is enlivened in the presence of consciousness. It is not consciousness that's performing an action called enlivening, which brings life to the body. Consciousness is not giving something to the body that shall take this and now you become alive. No. In the presence of consciousness, the body, mind, sense complex comes alive. The presence is what's important. There's a verse in the Kenopanishad. Kene shitam pratati peshitam manaha kenaf pranav prathamaf prayakti yuktaha kene shitam vacham imam vadanti vak pranas chakshu shotra kondevo yunakti. So as every Upanishad, or as most Upanishads I believe, it's a conversation between the Guru and the Shishya. The Shishya is asking a question. Kene shitam pratati peshitam manaha. Let's just look at that part. What is that in the presence of which the mind moves towards its sense objects? What is that in the presence of which my mind moves towards a calculator? The mind is inert, right? The student understands that the mind is inert. The body is inert. The eyes are inert. So what is that in the presence of which this is known? My mind moves towards it. And the whole unfolding of the Upanishad talks about the chit aspect of Ātman. So the Guru replies that it is consciousness, it is chit. Very important to know, and this is a mistake that many Vedantins also make, even many famous gurus make this mistake. They treat consciousness as an acting principle. They treat it as a witness. They say that, oh, consciousness is a witness. Everything is known to consciousness. No. Whatever is known within the mind. But the mind acquires the sentiency by the presence of consciousness to know objects. Consciousness cannot know objects. Consciousness allows the knowing to take place. I know I've repeated this several times, but it's important to make clear. So
yes, consciousness is like water. Like fire, it cannot experience its hotness.
Sorry?
No, I'm saying consciousness is, or Atma is, I'm trying to say that Atma is like fire, it cannot experience its warmth.
Yes.
Or like water, it cannot. That is
absolutely. I know, and that's absolutely true. And the fire cannot burn itself, right? The fire will burn everything else, but cannot burn itself. It is its own nature, the burning. Same way, consciousness does not know things. It is the very nature of knowing. It is the very essence of knowing. So the knowledge principle is consciousness. Similarly, water wets everything else, but the water cannot wet itself. So when a person, I guess, okay, let me address this a little later. I'll make a note of it. Okay. So when I talk about consciousness, I can give you a very good example to understand. Compare it to light. Okay. You have a room. It is not lit. It's completely dark. And you have books in front of you. And you're trying to read, but there is no light. Now suddenly somebody flicks on the light. And now you are able to read. Does is the light reading? No, the light is making the reading possible. Same way, consciousness is making the knowledge possible, making the knowing possible, making the witnessing possible. Consciousness is not the knower. Consciousness is making it possible for the mind, the antakaran, to become the knower. In the presence of consciousness, the mind becomes a knower. In the presence of consciousness, the mind becomes a witness. The consciousness is the witness behind the witness, but it is not a witness in the classical sense of an action. When I say I'm witnessing something, it's an action. Consciousness is action free, it is free of action. Light, when you turn the light on and you're able to read, the light does not perform an action of reading. The light enables the action of reading. So is this chit aspect clear? That consciousness is the chit that we are talking about, and it is free of action, it is actionless. It is the essence, the principle behind knowledge. It is a knowledge principle.
So can we say that consciousness is both knower and knowable?
That will come, yeah. Ultimately, consciousness is the knower and the knowledge, right? All three. But here we relate that by understanding the Sat aspect of Atma, right? So when we say the truth of the knower is Sat, the knower exists and therefore its truth is Sat. The truth of the known object is Sat, because the Sat object is Mithya, but the truth behind it is Satyam. Now Satyam is one, Mithya is many Mithya objects, but one Satyam. And therefore you can relate that the object and the subject are one and the same from the absolute order. Correct. But we'll also look at this and by relating how existence is consciousness, is limitlessness. This is a very important part.
Okay.
Yeah.
And one more doubt is, no qualities. It is nirguna, right, sir?
Yeah.
So what are Sat, Chit, and Ananda? Aren't these gunas to describe Atma, or how? I am not
Excellent,
getting
excellent
this
question.
point.
So, I'm really liking your conversation today because you're giving me points to talk about. And I think if everybody's okay with it, let's stretch this to 1.5 hours because definitely this is probably one of the most important topics in Tattva Bodha. So let's talk about this. First, let me address one thing I was talking about, then I'll talk about what you said. So, Sat, wait, what was I saying? When we say Sat, Chit, and Ananda, it's very important to understand that they are not adjectives. Adjectives are qualities that are attributes of matter. They're attributes of things, objects, right? So we should not call these adjectives. We should not call them gunas. They are free of gunas, as you said, they are nirguna. There's a very strong distinction in our tradition between guna and lakshana. But one thing I want to make clear is that Sat, Chit, and Ananda are not three different things. They're all referring to the same things, right? What is Sat is Chit, and what is Chit is Ananda. But let's come to that a little later. Let's talk about Ananda first, and then we'll connect all of them. Ananda, as many people falsely translate, is not bliss. I want to like capitalize. I wish there was like a caption above me over here. Maybe I'll edit the video that Ananda is not bliss. Put that on top here. Ananda is Ananda. Ananda is, at best, you can translate it to limitlessness. You cannot even call it infinity. Don't make the mistake of saying Ananda is infinite. Because if a person has studied calculus, you know that if you take the integrals of S thing, if you take the integrals of something that's infinite, you can bound it, right? Negative infinity, positive infinity. You can bound infinity. You can have different gradations and different uh, lengths of infinity. For example, there are infinite numbers in decimals between 0 and 1. There are infinite decimals 0.1, 0.01, 0.0000. I can go on countlessly. Infinite rational numbers exist between 0 and 1, right? There are infinite even numbers. There are infinite odd numbers. There are infinite prime numbers. There are infinite integers. There are infinite decimals. So infinities can be greater or less than other infinities. So there's no such thing as an absolute infinity, right? This is clear. There's nothing like a an absolute infinity, because infinity is always with relationship to the set you're talking about. So if I use a numerical system, what if I use the alphanumerical system? I use 1A, 1B, 1C, 13. Then again, it's a new system I've created. The infinity will be even greater because I have 26 alphabets and then I have 10 digits and then I can have like 36 total. Anyway, so not 36, but whatever. I'm not even going to do the math, but yeah, you get my point. Infinities can be many. Infinities do not have the feature of limitlessness. Infinity is always referring with reference to the object that it's talking about. So if I take a set, then there will be an infinity in that set. Okay, so don't call Ananda as infinity. Don't call Anantam as infinity.
So we can name it as Ananta, means that one which is without end or
Yeah.
endless.
Correct. Endless also I will not put, because then you'll talk about beginningless also, right? So when you know what I'm saying. So let's avoid those words. When you talk about endless, then it talks
Can we
about.
Yeah, can
Sorry?
we say that it does not have the property of time? Like it does not have like the time factor in it.
Correct. But then it may have the space factor in it. It may have the object factor in it. It may have the quality factor in it, right? So time, space, objects, quality, these are all attributes again. So the thing is, whenever we relate to it being free from one limitation, there might be another limitation. So we have to define all the limitations. And therefore, what is the cleanest, surest, quickest, most hassle-free way to define Anantam? Limitlessness. It is the essence of limitlessness. It has no limits. It is limitlessness. There are three limitations. Space limitations. Things are confined within space. They have a particular volume, a particular surface area, whatever you want to call it. Things are limited by time. Something is born in time, it dies in time, ho gaya. Things are limited as an object. There are many objects in the world, and if I am one of the objects, then I am always limited by all the other objects that are there, right? Like I gave this example earlier, the ant can crawl into your ear and make you miserable. The ant is an object, you are an object. The elephant can come and stampede upon you, and that'll definitely hurt. So, you're limited as an object. You're limited in space. You're limited in time. So these limitations exist. That which is free of spatial, temporal, and object-based limitations is limitlessness, is Ananda. Now, the Atma is Sat Chit Ananda, and the Taittiriya Upanishad also relates the Atma as Satyam Jnanam Anantam. Sat relates to Satyam, it's the same. Chit relates to Jnanam, which is the same, and Ananda relates to Anantam, which is the same. Ananda actually means fullness. Fullness. But here, the fullness is nothing other than limitlessness. You cannot be full unless you are free of limitations. So Ananda and Ananta are related to each other that way. So now the other thing, two subjects we were talking about, right? One is that Sat, Chit, and Ananda are not properties. They are not gunas. They are not adjectives. They are lakshana. Lakshana is very unique in our tradition. If I say that the sky is blue, is the blueness unique to the sky? No, my shirt could be blue, my walls could be blue, my pen could be blue, lots of things can be blue. The blue guna is not unique to the sky. Same thing with any color, same thing with temperature, same thing with any property, right? Any property you talk about can be transferred onto some other object, and then that can possess that property. So these are called adjectives or gunas. They are qualifiers, they are qualifications, they are qualities, and whatever are qualities will always have this transferability factor into them, that lots of things can be it, can be blue, can be red, can be hot, can be cold, whatever. Sat, Chit and Ananda are not adjectives, they are lakshana. Lakshana is something that is only specific to that object. Is there anything else that can be red? Yes, the flower can be red, the sunset can be red. Is there anything else that can be Sat? No, only Atma can be Sat. Is there anything else that can be Chit? No, only Atma can be Chit. Is there anything else that is Ananta? No, only Atma is Ananta. So Sat, Chit and Ananda are not gunas, but they are lakshana, which is highly specific to only one thing that you're talking about, and that is Atma, the Atma Padartha. Padartha means stuff, the thing that you're talking about. And the Sat, Chit, Ananda are only lakshana, they're like defining this thing. A definition is very specific and an adjective is very malleable. It can apply to different things. So this is the difference between that Dilip was talking about, that these are not gunas, these are not qualities, but these are lakshana. Is that clear?
Yeah, so can we say that it's independent of everything, like it is not dependent on any object or matter?
Absolutely, and that takes us to the next slide. What you were talking about is there in the next slide only. So it's very insightful of you. So let's look at this again as a summary, right? Satyam does not change in time. Satyam, the time itself is mithya, and therefore time itself has its basis in Satyam. Mithya is that which changes in time, including mithya. Mithya is also, time is also mithya. Satyam, as you correctly said, cannot be objectified, right? And the mithya is a world of objects, obviously it's objectified. Sat cannot be reduced into its subcomponents. How can you reduce existence? How can you reduce Atma? Atma is Atma. There's nothing lower than that. Atma is the common denominator of the whole Jagat. But everything in the Mithya can be reduced. We looked at so many examples. The clay and the pot example. The gold and the ornaments example. The shirt and the cloth example, right? So whatever can be reduced further is Mithya. And that which forms the base of all the objects that can be reduced is Satyam. It cannot be reduced further. That's Satyam. And as Unnati mentioned like a minute ago, Satyam enjoys independent existence. It does not depend upon anything else. Mithya has dependent existence. It depends upon Satyam. As Dilip Bhai talked about, Satyam is free from attributes and Mithya has attributes. Every object that is Mithya has multiple attributes. Satyam is free of attributes. And I will actually touch upon a point over here which I just recalled. Sat is one, Atma, Mithya, many Mithya objects, and so on. There are multiple such differences one can enlist. So these are 6 of the ones I could think of at the top of my head. Now let's talk about attributes. Let's talk about attributes. This is fun. It's a little bit too much fun. I'll look at the calculator. It has attributes. The attributes, am I looking at the substance of the calculator? No, I'm looking at the qualities, the attributes, the adjectives. If I reduce the calculator further, I don't know because it's covered by these attributes right now, right? So this is the important thing to understand. Anytime you look at an object, you're not looking at its substance, you're looking at its qualities. You can only know a quality when I pick this up and I'm able to measure its weight. I'm actually measuring the attribute called mass, right? When I touch this pen and it's made of steel or whatever metal, so it feels cold, I'm able to feel the attribute of heat. When I touch this tissue paper and it's porous, I'm able to feel the attribute of porosity. So everything that is there, everything that I'm able to know, remember, very important point, I don't know the object, I'm knowing the attributes of the object. Only attributes can be known. The substance cannot be known. When I look at the sky, I'm actually seeing the blue attribute of it. When I touch the fire, I'm feeling the heat attribute of it. When I touch the ice, it's the cold or the, well, scientifically is the absence of heat, right? There's nothing like cold. Cold is not the opposite of heat, it's like less heat. But okay. So now this is going to take us to a very important point over here. And I guess, again, this is not Sampradayic, but I know it makes sense and this is something that I have thought deeply about. Whatever has a unit of measurement is Mithya, and whatever is free of units is Satyam, in scientific terms. So that is one more way to look at Satyam and Mithya. We've looked at all these other ways, but this is one more way to look at it. If something has mass, if something has temperature, if something has color, if something has some property, all of these properties can be measured in units, right? I can say this is 20 grams. I can say this is 8 degrees Celsius. I can use a lot of metrics, a lot of units of measurement. Whatever has units of measurement is referring to an object, and if it is an object, it is Mithya.
This analogy, whatever you're giving right now, made it very easy to understand what is Satya and Mithya. And till now, I think we were just beating around the bush.
Well, those were Upanishadic teachings, so hardly beating around the bush, but
this was so direct and very easy, I guess. I don't know about others, but that's what I felt.
Well, different prakriyas apply to different people, right? So there might be one prakriya which may apply to other people. So if you look at the Chandogya Upanishad, the clay and the pot attribute, it wouldn't have applied here. How do you apply the clay and pot example here? By saying that something is free of attributes, I cannot prove that it is the essence of that, right? So definitely the clay and the pot example is important to establish that Sat exists whenever there's Mithya, and Sat is there even when the Mithya is not there. So, I mean, that example is definitely required. If you look at the gold and the ornament, same thing is required. If you look at the light and
Yeah,
the
true, very true.
so
Yeah.
I'm just saying that all of these examples are relevant because they touch upon one particular aspect of the Atma. Not any one example can give you all the aspects. So when I talk about the unitlessness of Atma, do you have headphones on? You don't, right? Uh, is everybody else hearing an echo of myself?
Yes, I can hear
Okay,
them
okay.
now.
Vidushree ji, can you please put the earphones on, if you don't mind? Thank you. So, okay, so like, okay, anyway, coming back to the example, definitely, the whole talk was not beating around the bush because everything has a relevance to it. So when I say that this pen has attributes, it has units, and the Atma existence has no units. I cannot measure consciousness in units, right? I mean, X units of consciousness doesn't make sense. X units of existence doesn't make sense. I can say that, yeah, this occupies a certain volume in space, a metric volume, right? It has maybe one decimeter cube. So space also is a unit, right? Something can span a length of time, seconds, hours, days, whatever. So whatever has units is mithya. Whatever is satyam does not have units. So that is another way to look at it. Now we will understand that Sat, Chit and Ananda are one. They are the same. Existence. Ananda, let's look at it as Ananda. Ananda, let's look at it as limitlessness. What is limitlessness is not bound by limitations. What exists, the object that exists, is limited by space and time and object-based limitations. Existence does not have limitations. Therefore, what is Sat is Ananta, right? Sat, suppose let's conceptualize a thought experiment that you have something like a cricket field. The stadium is limited by the boundary around the field, right? You have a boundary. The boundary conditions limit the field that is confined within those conditions. Suppose you have existence, and as a Purva Paksha, somebody says that what if I draw a boundary around existence? Is existence going to get limited? Think about it. What will happen? If I draw a boundary around existence to confine it, what happens?
It's not going to be limited.
Yes, because the boundary has to exist. And the
Exactly.
boundary cannot exist unless it is lent existence by existence. And therefore the boundary itself is part of what it's trying to limit.
Right.
And therefore the boundary is nothing than existence. So I'm just saying that this is a thought experiment, don't take it seriously. But if I draw a boundary around existence, again it becomes part of existence. Then I have to draw one more, and that's also existence. And I draw one more, that's also existence. Existence has no limitations. And the reason I'm trying to elaborate this example is existence is even grander than the universe. The universe may be boundless as far as we know, right? But at some point, the place where the universe ends is really where space and time end. But even where space and time end, existence will not end. Existence is isness, whereas space and time are. Space is, time is, existence is isness. So don't think of existence in terms of, oh, it's as big as the universe. Existence does not even have the limitations that the universe has. The universe may be infinitely large, it may be expanding forever, it may be like so old and whatnot, but existence is still not confined by the boundaries of the universe. When the universe is there, existence is there. When the universe is not there, existence is still there. Existence is always, existence is, and that is eternal. In fact, even using the word eternal is a misnomer because eternal implies that time is always there, right? Eternal is a measure of time, but when there is no time, existence is still there. When there is time, existence is still there. When there is space, existence is there. When space is gone, existence is still there. So existence is limitlessness. What about consciousness? Is consciousness limitlessness? Is it limitless? By alertness, this is a big mistake that people make. Again, a misconception I want to clear. when people talk about consciousness, they usually talk in terms of medical terms, right? Oh, the person is conscious. Oh, he's become unconscious. He got hurt on the head, now he's unconscious. This is not the consciousness we are talking about. Consciousness is the principle that lends the ability for the mind to know. Consciousness is that in the presence of which everything is known. Is it?
Is it like aham, me, myself? I'm not correctly getting the word. Like consciousness is like aham.
No. Aham means I, right? So if you are saying consciousness is I, then yeah, in that sense, consciousness is I. But if you're talking about consciousness is that I, that the aham sentiment, then that is not related to consciousness. So,
like I'm saying in Mahavakya, like aham brahmasmi, aham, I, that I is consciousness, right? Like I'm trying to use that word.
let me think about it. It does not exactly relate because it doesn't tell you much about consciousness, right? If I say consciousness is aham, ultimately Atma is aham, I am Atma, but Atma is Satchit Ananda. So it kind of becomes like a, you know what I'm saying? It's like a cross reference. Atma, consciousness is again one of the lakshana of Atma. But then to say that consciousness is Atma, it doesn't reveal much. It's kind of like, it's called Anyo Anya Ashraya. That's a logical fallacy where suppose somebody says, where do you live? I live in front of the petrol pump. Where's the petrol pump? In front of my house. Where's the house? In front of the petrol pump. So that does not reveal more, right? So what I'm saying is that, yeah, consciousness is aham only. Aham is also consciousness. But when you look at the consciousness aspect of Atma, it is the knowledge principle. It is like the light in the presence of which everything else is known. The light of consciousness. That's why it's called the Jnana Deepa, or it's called the Chit Akash. It's also termed as the Akash, which is all pervading. Same way, consciousness is also all pervading. So when we look at Atma from the existence perspective, we understand that Atma is not limited to this physical body. Atma is not here. It's not confined within here. All that is there is only Atma. Now when you look at Chit, somehow we are very used to thinking that, oh, I am conscious of so and so things, and therefore consciousness is only centered around my body, around my mind. I know the tree, I know the sky, I know the people on my computer, and therefore I am conscious of these things. So consciousness is only so small. No, the same consciousness eliminates everything, not only my body, mind, sense complex, but the whole jagat. So this consciousness is one principle, same as Chit. Now here is the very important part, a master stroke that I want to get out of the way. We saw that existence is limitlessness. Consciousness also does not have limitations. If I draw the same thought experiment, if I draw the boundary around consciousness, I'm conscious of the boundary. If anything that you're conscious of is again within consciousness, and if something is within consciousness, then it cannot be limited. Therefore, consciousness is also limitlessness. And now here is the cool part. Okay, this is amazing. Existence is limitlessness. Consciousness is limitlessness. What does that tell you? Mathematics. A equals C, B equals C, then
A equals C.
A equals B.
Yeah.
So A equals B equals C. So what is Sat is Chit, and what is Sat Chit is Ananda. And this is the topic of Atma. Any questions so far? I'm covered with the material so far as I recall. But if there's anything I left out, or if you want to, oh yes, of course I left out something. Yeah. So remember last time we spoke about Avasthatrayam, Swapna, Jagrat, and Sushupti. There's a fourth state. The Mandukya Upanishad talks about a fourth state, and people are okay. Let's talk about misconceptions. This is fun. This will help us understand things more relevant. People talk about a fourth state. They say it's a fourth state of experience. Sorry, Turiya, correct. So the fourth state is Turiya. What is the fourth state? You tell me. You have three states of experience. Is there a fourth state that you can experience?
Not exactly, but I have heard that people saying Surya, it is the ultimate state. Or
Yeah,
I negate that, but that's what I.
yeah. These are all the wrong explanations we've heard. The Turiya is the ultimate state, that state where you have to reach. And some people say, oh, after Samadhi you can reach Turiya. Turiya is what you experience in meditation. You have to experience this Turiya. That's rubbish. There are three states of experience. Let's be very
Like
clear. Jagrat, that's what you
Like-
experience. Wait, I'll tell you. Jagrat is there. Swapna is there. Sushupti is there. Is there a fourth state you can think of? No, not really. These are all the experiences you have. Suppose you go into meditation, you have some like really profound experience. It will still be within Jagrat or maybe within Swapna. Somewhere it will be there.
But Sushupti is the ultimate, right?
No, Sushupti is only one of the three states of experience where what you are aware of is emptiness. You're aware of nothingness as a set. So in Jagrat,
It's like if somebody asks me, "Have you slept well?"
yeah.
I can say yes, I have slept well. But if I wouldn't know whether I've slept well or not. Dream, I know that I had a dream. I'm able to tell what was there in my dream. But if somebody asks me, "Have you slept well last night?" I would just say yes or no.
Yes, but
Something
here,
like that.
right, and that is the example that Shankaracharya uses actually. Have you slept
Yeah.
well, right? You know that you've slept well.
Yeah.
No, but
Yeah,
but that's not an ultimate state. That is a state where you are experiencing ignorance. The Karana Sharira
yeah,
is
that is
only-
Sushupti, isn't it?
Yeah, that's Sushupti.
Okay. I mean, I just wanted to recapitulate because I wasn't there in the last session.
Okay.
So, okay.
I can summarize for you if you want, like quickly. So Sushupti is where you experience nothingness. You experience ignorance. Ignorance is an object of your experience. But the thing is, let's look at the snake and rope example again. When you look at the snake in twilight, it frightens you because it appears as a rope. Sorry, when you look at the rope, it appears as a snake and it frightens you. Now, suppose you go out in pitch dark and you look at the rope. Can you see it? You can't see it. And what you cannot see does not frighten you. Therefore, you may be frightened in your waking state. The world is all dangerous and it might trouble you. You may be frightened in your dreams also. But you can never be frightened, you can never be unhappy in your deep sleep. Because what it is a state of absolute ignorance. And therefore, when you undergo the experience of deep sleep, the experience of ignorance, it is comparable to Atmananda because you experience no limitations. Absolute ignorance does not come with any limitations while you're experiencing it. But the problem is that you have to wake up and you have to deal with the world again. So in deep sleep, everybody can be as happy as the jnani. But once you wake up, that's where all the problems take place. So the deep sleep state is not ultimate, but it is a way for
But
us
now-
to. Sorry,
Yeah, but now what is Turiya Avastha then?
we'll come to that. So Turiya Avastha is the fourth state, and now I just negated myself. I said there is no such thing as a fourth state. So Turiya Avastha is that which is present in all the four states, and the Turiya is Atma. That is the fourth state. Atma is the fourth state, but don't call it a state. It's just a way to explain. Similarly, you have many ornaments. The fourth ornament is the gold. You have three pots. The fourth pot is the clay. You have three states of experience. The fourth state is Atma. So Atma is the content, the substance of all these states, the witness to all these states, the reality of all of these states. And that is the fourth state and that is Atma. So if a person says that, okay, I want to go in and experience Turiya, he is foolish. You cannot experience the Atma because as we spoke about a few minutes ago, you can only experience attributes. You can only experience qualities. I can only experience the qualities of this calculator. Only the gunas, only the attributes, only the features, not the substance. So if if a foolish person says that he is able to experience the Atma, it's not possible. Whatever experience takes place is only within the mind. Whatever he is experiencing must be a function of the mind. The moment I say I'm experiencing Atma, it becomes a ridiculous statement because Atma is everything. It's not confined to my body and my mind. The whole Jagat is bathed in consciousness. The whole Jagat is lent existence by Sat. So how can a person experience Atma? You cannot experience Atma. And this is the biggest misconception that a person ever carries with regards to Vedanta, that they go off on an experience hunt. Pujya Swamiji says that these people are experience hunters. They hunt for an experience and they try to find the Atma. And then when they don't find the Atma, they are disappointed. Or they find something, it is not the Atma that they think it's Atma. So they'll have some kind of experience in meditation. They may have some, some drugs which might induce certain visions. They may do other things to find the Atma. What is there to find the Atma? You can only understand the Atma. You understand it to be Satchitananda, and then you own up to that understanding. So that is the whole teaching of Vedanta.
It can be explained using Tattvamasi, right?
Experienced.
Yeah.
How can you?
So if somebody asks, what is Atma? Is this Atma? Then you say no, Tat. Again it goes, if this is Atma, no, Tat, Tat. You keep on saying Tat, Tat, and there is no end for that.
Yeah.
Right. So that is how you can explain Atma.
Oh,
Is it possible to even explain Atma?
you can indicate Atma. You can point to
Yeah.
Atma. You
Yeah.
cannot
So how do you point to Atma? You
by
can't.
point. I don't mean physically pointing. You can give pointers to indicate it. You know what I'm saying? I can't say that Atma is somewhere here. I can't do that.
Yeah. If somebody says, if somebody asks, uh, Adi Shankaracharya says Tattva.
that
He says,
that
yeah,
Sa
that is a
Atma,
very
Sa
big
Atma,
concept, right?
Sattva Tattamasi. That's the next talk. We
Okay.
actually
Why?
talked about.
Every time I'm touching on the next talk.
No, no, no. I said these three talks will all connect the topic of the Atman together. But it's not a. It cannot be explained in only one way. There are different prakriyas. Some have limitations. Each udaharana is an example. Every example will come with certain limitations. No example is complete in itself. Suppose I use the light example to say that Atma is consciousness. There's a limitation there. What is the limitation? The Sat is missed out, right? If I say that in the presence of the light, I'm able to read, similarly, in the presence of consciousness, I'm able to know, then the existence factor of consciousness is left out. Because obviously, the light is different from the book, the light is different from the person, the light is different from the room. So now, to understand Chit, we use this example, and to understand whatever it is not, we move on to something else, right? To understand the other aspects of Atma. Now we look at the pot and the clay. The pot and the clay example tells me that Atma is Sat. But now it does not help me understand that it's Chit. And so I have to move on to something else. Then I understand a way to understand it's Ananta. And that may not help me understand the other three. So the whole example methodology that we use in Vedanta, all the udaharanas, are to establish one or the other understanding of the Atma. And then we put all that we gained from these different udaharanas for that particular sample piece, and we relate that to the Atma. And that is the way to understand the Atma. And that is the way to explain the Atma. So, one another way which you found very favorable for yourself is the example of units and unitlessness. But that is only explaining one aspect of the Atma, and that aspect is that the Atma is free of attributes. But it cannot help you understand the others. So if a person says that any one example is complete for them, then they are only understanding one very tiny aspect of it. But they are missing out on all the other aspects. And so that is the whole purpose of the different prakriyas in Vedanta, to give you a complete picture of what the Atma is without actually showing you that picture, but to help you indicate it. So that is the way to understand the Atma, through different indications.
Yeah, very clear now. I mean, yeah.
Cool. And just to reiterate, Atma cannot be experienced. And if a person is experiencing Atma, please show us how. So, so should we just wrap up? It's already been like close to 1 hour 40 minutes. Unless you want to discuss anything else. I could go on, no problem.
I have to sleep.
You go to sleep now. You wake up at 4.
Yeah.
But if anybody else wants to discuss something. Any doubts so far on what we covered? Because this was a very heavy topic, and this is the center of Tattva Bodha. This is like the place where everything comes together. So this are the next two talks.
Okay, we have these three bodies which we saw, right?
Yeah.
Like the Stula Sharira, Sukshma Sharira, Karana Sharira. Can we say that Atma is the fourth part? Like,
You can, if you are able to understand it in that sense that we talked about, right? In
okay.
fact, Swamiji does talk about it. Atma is like the fourth Sharira. And which one? That which is the essence of all the other three.
Right. Okay, so that makes you like it is that consciousness which makes it alive, like makes all the three bodies alive. Hello. Hello.
I guess he cannot hear.
Yeah, so I'm saying it is that consciousness which makes all the three bodies alive. Like Atma is that consciousness.
I guess he lost connection. He just sent a message. Can you hear?
Yeah, so who can hear?
Yeah, this is me, Amit.
Oh,
I
okay, okay.
can answer. My understanding about your question is, Didi, like you are saying, Atma is fourth body. Like on Atma, these three bodies rest, right? Like Stula, Sushma, and Karna
Karan.
Sharira.
Yeah.
Uh,
So I'm
but
saying
my
that what I'm saying is like Atma is that consciousness which makes all the three shariras alive. Like it allows you, Atma is that one thing which allows to experience and perceive the things around.
in fact, we are Atma, right? So
Yeah.
we are having these three bodies experience the Jagat using this Atma.
Hmm.
I don't know. like
कैसे मुंह से पैर पकड़ा उसका
hello.
Yeah, I get your point.
Okay.
Hello.
We can hear you now.
Okay, excellent. Sorry, I don't know what happened. So, I was actually going to message one of you to like close off with a Shanti mantra because I couldn't talk, but now I'm back. Nee, so you're correct. Atma can be called as the fourth body in quotes, only figuratively. And by that, as Unnati correctly stated, that which lends consciousness to the other three bodies is the fourth so-called body, which is Atma, which is the truth of all the other three. Also, it lends existence to the other three bodies, and therefore it's a fourth body in that way. Similarly, that which is present in all three states of experience is the fourth state, which is Atma. But it here, to as a caveat, it's not meant to be looked upon as the fourth body or the fourth state or the you can even go further and say it is like the sixth element, which lends existence to the Panchabhutas, Akash, Agni, Vayu, Apa, Prithvi. So this way you can look at Atma as pervading everything, pervading all, and being the fundamental denominator that is common to everything. So everything else has its own particular set of features and attributes. Atma is the featurelessness, attributelessness, timelessness, spacelessness, objectlessness, limitlessness, which is underlying everything else that is there and lending it existence. You take
So
away
can we?
everything else, and Atma is left behind. You take away the
So
Atma, there's
can
nothing.
so can we say that everything is Jagat and everything rests on the Atma? The anything which is other than Atma is Jagat. Means sorry, nothing other than Atma.
Yeah.
Figuratively, everything which is sorry, I'm not getting the exact words to use.
Look at it this way only. Just to reiterate the same example, whatever is mithya has its base in Satyam. But the mithya itself is not Satyam. The Satyam is the truth behind the mithya, which continues being there even when mithya is there.
मम्मी से हम बात करेंगे या वो
So,
खुद ही बताए हम सुन रहे थे
so whenever Jagat is there, Atma is also there. Atma appears as the Jagat. Whenever the Jagat is not there, Atma is also there, but it is not appearing as any one particular thing. Atma simply is. It is featurelessness. And that is what is found within Pralayam. Pralayam is the state where the universe is present in the seed form, in the Avyakta form. Avyakta means without any features, without any divisions, without any kind of like attributes. That is Avyakta. So, even a very good way to sometimes understand more about the features, or rather the lack of features of Atma, is by using these words like Avyakta, Nirguna, Nirvishesha, Nir this, Nir that. Ways to negate its attributes is the way to establish the attributeless of the Atma, right? So,
It's very important for us to constantly keep discriminating between what is Sat and what is Mithya.
yes. Very important. And that's one of the main ways to look at the world through a Vedantic perspective. That you look at everything and you can't constantly keep thinking that this is unreal, right? But rather it's a more mature way to look at the world by knowing that this is a changing, a shifting, a transfiguring, a transforming reality which is always undergoing modifications. But what lies behind it, the underlying truth is unchanging. It is changeless. It is without features. It is without attributes. It is without limitations. It is without any boundaries. And that is the Atma. So if you look at the trees and you look at the sky and the stars and the mountains, to understand that there is only one reality which is giving existence to it all, that is the vision of Vedanta. That is the vision of Advaita. This is the knowledge, this is the perspective of the Jnani when he looks at the world. He treats the world for what it is. He uses the world for what it is, but he never takes it as real and as absolutely real. And the moment he takes it as real, then again the problems of the world will become his problems. The body is also not is also mithya, right? So another way to understand and visualize, as what the Levi was talking about, the universe and the Jagat. Imagine that you have this is an example in the Dakshinamurti Stotram. Vishwam Darpana Drishyaman Nagari Tulyam Nijantargatam. Have you heard this verse? So it says Vishwam, the universe, Darpana Drishya, is seen within a mirror. Imagine that you are somewhere in space, okay? Just imagine, like this is all thought experiment. And there's a huge infinite size mirror, like a huge mirror, right? And inside that mirror, you see a universe, a city. You see a city with people walking and they are conducting their daily business. You see a blacksmith and you see a horse rider and you see all these soldiers and people selling food and whatnot. So you're walking through this village inside this mirror, and all these people are there. And then can you count the objects inside the mirror? Yes, you can. You can say there's one person, there's one village, there's one house, there's one this, there's one that. Can you count the mirror in the same breath as the objects? You cannot. You cannot say there are 7 objects plus the 8th object, which is the mirror. You cannot. The mirror is a different order of reality than the objects that are found in the mirror. The objects are mithya. They're dependent upon the satyam, which is the mirror. And the mirror is like the Atma, which is not dependent on anything. It is free. Similarly, this whole Jagat is like the village inside projected upon this mirror, which is the Atma. And the Atma is the very base and the foundation for all the objects also. The mirror has no features. If you see fire inside the mirror does not get hot. If you see snow inside the mirror does not get cold. Whatever is projected upon the mirror the mirror is free of the attributes of the projections. The projections have attributes. Same way the mithya Jagat which is projected has attributes, but Satyam does not have any attributes. And that is the way to relate the Jagat with Satyam. That the Jagat is mithya and yet it is very much non-separate from the Satyam. The Satyam pervades the Mithya. The Satyam is there in every aspect of the Mithya, but the Mithya is not Satyam.
Yeah, makes sense. So it is the very principle behind Mithya.
Yes, absolutely.
And that's where non-duality comes. Like that's how Vedanta is termed as non-dual.
Yes. So Vedanta has like a very unique way to explain this non-duality, and that is what sets it apart, because Vedanta establishes that the reality is non-dual, but that reality is you. And to be if I understand the reality is non-dual, so what? But when Vedanta says Tattvamasi, that you are, then that makes all the difference in my life, right? Because then I'm able to lead life in a very proper manner. I'm able to become free. I'm able to gain that freedom which the Vedanta talks about. So they say, right, Brahma vid apnoti param. The one who gains Brahman, the knowledge of Brahman, gains the ultimate. Apnoti param, apnoti means gains, and param means the ultimate. So the one with the knowledge of Brahman has gained the absolute. And here the gaining is only figurative because it is who you are. But if I don't know who I am, then I lose who I am, right? If I have $1 billion, but if I think I'm a beggar, then I will remain a beggar. I'll live like a beggar. I'll feel like a beggar. I'll think like a beggar. But the moment somebody tells me, no, you are a billionaire, then suddenly all my limitations are gone. Same way, I am Brahman. There's no doubt about that. But the fact that I don't know it is what's creating all these problems. And so the purpose of Vedanta is to reveal that you are that. So very cool. This is interesting. And it keeps getting better. So shall we wrap up for today?
Yes.
Okay. Very good discussion, by the way. Om सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम् ॐ पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः हरिः ॐ श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः हरिः ॐ